Hello and welcome to another Tactical Corner here on Scardcast. Today we look at the Eldar as they take on the Drukhari in this maelstrom of war missions. So let's sit back and get better at our game. Hello and welcome to another Tactical Corner. This is a weekly show where I talk about the battle report that was released earlier in the week. So, check the link down below, watch the battle report first if you don't want any spoilers ahead for the battle. And this week is no different, seeing my Dark Eldar faced off against the Craftworld. I ran a very eclectic list, bit of everything: Coven, Witch Cult, and Cabalite warriors. I love playing varied armies tactically against newer players that have never played me before, because it makes target priority for my enemy very, very hard. They don't really know what's going to do most of the damage and what's really just there for show. Now, my opponent did bring Craftworld Eldar. Now, he was running an Uthwe list, and his list, I'm going to go in a little bit more detail, was varied, had some very good elements, and kind of showcased a couple of different things. For anybody who doesn't know, the Uthwe Craftworld trait means that they ignore wounds on a 6+, and that includes everything, essentially. So they also have some really cool relics, like the one the Farseer had, that adds +1 to his attempt to cast Smite, which makes it very easy for him to get a D6 damage smite, which is pretty cool. Of course, we were playing with the beta rules, which meant smite is harder to cast, and characters don't block line of sight to each other, essentially. Now, his list was a couple of Fire Prisms, a big Wraith Knight, a Hemlock Wraith Fighter, which is the Hemlock Wraith Fighters are probably was one of the nastiest things in his list. The Wraith Knight was really cheap, just designed to be a battering ram and to soak up firepower and to tie things up. You know, for its cost, you know, and he had run it as an Eanden Wraith Knight, which meant that it was going to be effective essentially until it was dead, meaning that it counted all wounds as double for its degeneration. Hemlock Wraith Fighter flies around, kills things with Smite, and also has the D-sides, which hit automatically and do a lot of damage because they're high strength and decent damage. And then he did have a Wraith Lord as well. Now, the Wraith Lord, a couple of flamers, geared up for combat, you know, didn't really have much. Again, designed to just run up the field, tie something up, soak shots, really pulling the pressure off of the rest of the army itself. And I really liked both. It was a pleasure to play against an army that's in progress and looks really cool, but had a lot of different elements, like mine. So it was going to be a battle of wits and really about deployment and battle strategy more than just list building, which I really enjoy when it comes to a game. Now, he did have some scatterbikes. They're not, but they had shuriken cannon, which makes them very effective with battle focus. And the Fire Prisms themselves are phenomenal. Fire Prisms in a Craftworld army are like a key priority target. You have to take them out, or they will annihilate your army. So we start the game, and we're playing a mission where you draw 6 cards, and you can't draw cards again until you've completed or discarded your cards. So my first turn essentially was a draw of 6 cards, and I was able to do all 6 cards in one go, and I got like 14 Maelstrom points. That was essentially the hammer blow that really cemented the game. But you know, I used the webway to bring in things like Cabalite warriors in his backfield to charge his backline and put objective secured units on his objectives by his Fire Prisms, meaning that he had to deal with little Cabalite warrior units. My Razorwing Flocks acted like a giant screen and really tied up things like the Wraith Knight. While across the opposite flank, I pushed up with the Tantalus, the Talos, the Chronos, and the Venoms as well, while using the Chimera as a sort of bait screen. There are only about 60 points for 6 of them. I brought them out of the webway portal as well. Now, I love the Tantalus in a very eclectic army because anything in line of sight to my Tantalus gets to use my Warlord's leadership as long as the Warlord is on it. So even things like Beast Packs and things like that don't rely as much on a Beast Master to keep them around in the fight. Of course, my opponent literally took on the Chimera really quickly and murdered them. He knew that those puppies would go into his Guardian unit and just rip the Guardian unit to shred with their high number of strength for attacks. And of course, I would have jumped the Beastmaster over and given them rerolls as well. So my opponent was fighting valiantly. Now, tactically, he didn't draw cards as well as I did, but he decided to hold on to a few key cards that, in my opinion, he should have tried to discard as quickly as possible in order to have a chance at redrawing all his cards. You know, I much prefer discarding a card that I don't know if I can do and getting an opportunity to draw another card than to hold on to a card and then be forced to play to that card in any sort of Maelstrom mission. Now, I started taking heavy casualties. My witches started taking casualties, you know, my Taluses were going down, my Chronos, and there was a key point where I had to commit to the battlefield. I had to take down the center, which was the Wraith Knight, but my shooting had taken out one of the Fire Prisms, and he still had a second one. So it all kind of came down to a big battle in the middle of the board. And I had to throw in my Tantalus, I threw in the Chronos, the Talos, essentially to try and wipe out the Guardians and take out his Warlord, because I had Kingslayer, and I really wanted to try and kill Eldrad. Now, I was not successful, as Eldrad's 3+ invulnerable save really proved hard for me to get through. But at the end of the game, I had acquired so many points that my opponent, even though he was in a position to really, you know, do a lot of damage, you know, decided to throw the towel in and really kind of reset the game. So this kind of shows, don't be afraid to just play for points. You know, as long as you have one model left alive at the end of the battlefield, if you're playing a Maelstrom mission, you know, you get that many points. And at the end of the game, it's whoever gets more points wins. So don't be afraid to really kind of sacrifice your units and throw your Warlord into the fray, and don't just be emotionally attached to your models. The narrative will happen, but if your aim is to get tactically better, everything is expendable. And don't forget that. So thanks a lot for tuning in. Tune in next week for another battle report, and I hope you're having a happy new year in the Gregorian calendar, humans. Scary out.
It's an exclusive. We're playing the game.